Okay, hello everybody. My name's Jill Gibson and I live here in Oakley. I'm a mum of two boys. I'm a wife to Anthony. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, but I've lived here in the village for almost 15 years now. And originally I was a Latin teacher. I taught Latin and classics in a school in London for 13 years. I then went traveling with my husband, which was absolutely amazing and a really it's just a totally wonderful experience and really changed us, I think, in many ways as people. When I came back, I worked for a recycling company for 6 years. I did sales and marketing for a recycling company. And then more recently, I've become a copywriter. So I'm writing websites and bios and so on for people. And why I have any sort of credentials to be talking to you today about the environment, about what we could do to save the planet. I suppose really originally I was very passionate as a teenager about animal welfare. I was very concerned about animals being mistreated for makeup and shampoo industry and so on. And then even when I was at university, I remember we were in a food cooperative. We used to bulk buy kidney beans and TVP, which was the forerunner of corn, I suppose, and so on. And we used to have a food cooperative where we would bulk buy these big sacks of grains and so on and distribute them amongst ourselves. But it was really when I started to become a teacher that I became particularly fired up about the planet, because I became very involved in this scheme called Rethink Rubbish. It was run by the Western Riverside, so across 3 boroughs in London, and I became the school's waste watch coordinator. And we did waste audits on the school. We set up recycling bins for paper in every classroom. We got recycling bins in the corridor. And one of the things I did was set up a remarkable shop. So this was a shop selling stationery made from recycled products, made by a company called Remarkable that was on the other side of Hammersmith Bridge. And they would collect the little flimsy drink cups from the water dispensers in the canteen and then turn them into pens and pencils. And in 1994, BBC World came and filmed me in the school about this remarkable shop and about this whole idea of closing the loop, which is one of my big passions or big bugbears. And so really I was very passionate about recycling and so on while I lived in London. It was very easy to recycle in London. Our local council took an awful lot of things away. It was a big shock to me when I came here and you could only recycle plastic bottles. But when my husband and I had gone travelling and we saw an awful lot of poverty up close and firsthand, both in Central and South America and in Africa. You know, I remember being somewhere in Mexico and there were kids and it was near a Kentucky Fried Chicken and the kids were rooting in the bin to get the bones of what other people had thrown away, to gnaw the last little bit of meat and fat off the bones and so on. And then in Africa, where in many of the villages that we went to, and we were really lucky, we got to spend a whole day with nomadic tribesmen and people who were so welcoming and so joyful, but they had so little. And it really made us come back thinking about consumerism and thinking about greed and not maybe wanting to have the latest of everything and the biggest of everything and the flash car or the best phone and all of these sorts of things. And when I came back, I decided not to go straight back into teaching. I wanted to do something vocational. I started working for a recycling company. And that was great because I learned an awful lot about the recycling industry. I moved here, I became a recycling champion for Hampshire, and they didn't actually do a huge amount with us, but I did put lots of stickers on the bin. So if you have a sticker on your green bin about what can and can't go in it, I might well have put that sticker on the bin for you. But I also joined the local fair trade group, and many of you people who know me know that I was very active with fair trade. I have been for many years. I ran the local group for almost 10 years, raising awareness, getting more shops to stock fair trade products, doing things in town and so on. And fair trade is very much about the people, but also the planet. They reduce the number of pesticides and fertilizers. They work very closely with the farmers about biodiversity and so on. But I've kept up my interest in all things to do with wastefulness and recycling. I used to go to Cliddesden Primary every year during their Green Week and do a talk with all of the different age groups about recycling. And more recently, I have been working with my friend Susie, and we set up, or she set up, the Facebook group Eco Zero, where we share tips and advice and stories about how to reduce our use of plastics and generally tips to help save the planet. So that's why I'm here. And today my talk is called the ABC of saving the planet. And my idea is I'm going to go from A to B to C, and then I'm going to work back again from C to B to A. So my first A is away. Where is away? When you throw things away, where is this away that you're thinking of? Where do you think it goes? Because I think we give ourselves a sort of conscience cleansing by doing some recycling. We think, oh, we'll put these things in our green bin. You know, here's my milk bottle going off to the, and my egg box and my paper and cardboard, or my plastic bottles and my tin cans. But it still has to go somewhere. And the things that we throw away here in Hampshire actually get incinerated. They don't go to landfill. Yes, in our county, we use ERFs, energy recovery facilities. So most of our rubbish actually goes to the big ERF in Chinham. And the energy that is recovered from the burning of the waste powers 10,000 homes in Chinham area. So our rubbish is creating energy. It's not a bad use of rubbish, really. It just, you want to divert as many things as you can away from the rubbish stream in order to have good recycling rates and just incinerate what really cannot be reused, repurposed or recycled. But when we put things in the recycling bin, we kind of then push it out of our minds, and we sometimes don't do recycling very well. So I deliberately kept the lid on my bottle here, because when we come to B in a second, my first B is for bins and what we put in our bins. So under my one of my cupboards, I have these red boxes. I have a couple of them for different things, and the top one is for these things that can go to the council, the things that we are throwing away, the things that can be collected at the curbside. And the council are really trying to do their best with the recycling. Lots of things have been put on hold actually by DEFRA, because the landscape of recycling and what will be taken from the curbside is changing, and they don't want to build a huge new waste facility if things are going to change dramatically about packaging, about composting, about food and so on. They don't want to build a facility and then find out that actually it's not quite right for the service they're trying to provide. So when we throw things away, we really need to think about where this away is. When things go to landfill, and the thing about doing your green bin badly, so my example was leaving the top on my milk bottle. So this is bad, yeah? In Hampshire, in Basingstoke-on-Deane, this is a no-go. If you do this, it actually means that that is contaminated. It's not contaminated because it's dirty or it's covered in oil or pizza sauce or whatever. It's contaminated because the incorrect waste stream is in there. There'll always be a little tolerance. There will always be, usually it's something like 5%. You can have 5% of the wrong stuff. But if you're putting lots of things in your green bin that can't be recycled at the recycling facility, it will actually go to landfill. It won't even go to the incinerator. The incinerator is running at full capacity and has no room for green bins gone wrong. So if you put the wrong stuff, if you don't really pay attention and you're chucking stuff in there like plastic cartons and so on, if you're putting in, you know, things like, you know, this tray had mushrooms in it, I think, or, you know, yogurt pots and things like that. If you're just thinking, oh, well, that's plastic, I'm sure they can recycle that as well. Contaminated waste will actually end up going to landfill. And of course, we've seen recently the problems with the landfill sites. The rubbish can blow away, lightweight plastic blows into our rivers and our streams and ends up in the waterways, ends up in the ocean, ends up in the fish. We're polluting the oceans. The David Attenborough Blue Planet program was one of those big wake-up calls for so many people, that plastic waste is not good, particularly single-use plastic. It's funny, if you get me started on plastic, I think plastic is really quite demonized at the minute. Plastic is incredibly useful and incredibly versatile. If you think back to the 1950s, everything would have been in wood, like heavy wooden crates and metal tins and so on. It's single-use plastic that we really should have an issue with, and it's what we do with it afterwards that's important. So it's actually more energy efficient to recycle this plastic bottle than it is to recycle glass. But we're all very used to recycling glass because we've done it for so long. But actually, glass should be reused 20 times, like we do with milk bottles. They just couldn't get French vineyards to agree um, on a single size and shape and colour of green bottles for wine. Otherwise, we might have a wine bottle take back industry as well. But when we put these things in our recycling bin, they still have to go somewhere. And they're actually going to a massive sorting facility with a lot of human contact. So please always wash things out. It's not all just done by mechanical picking. It's not all just washed straight away. There is a lot of, if you're putting gungy stuff in because you didn't bother washing it out, it makes it really unpleasant for the people who are handling it. But they will sort it. They sort the plastics from the metals, from the aerosols, so, and it all goes into these separate waste streams and goes off to be processed. And this kind of grade 1 and grade 2 plastic, like the plastic bottles, can be renewed and renewed and renewed, and sometimes goes back into the food industry to make new plastic bottles, but even goes to make things like lovely fluffy fleeces. Like there's a particular company, Patagonia, all of their fleeces are made from recycled plastic bottles. So when we're throwing things away, we really need to think about where this away is. There's no magic away. When we did questions, when we did our first recording, one of the people asked about emissions with the ERFs, the energy recovery facilities. The point is that these days they're very good. The new ones are so much better than any coal-fired power station. I've been to tour 2. So when I was a Hampshire recycling champion for Hampshire, the best thing was we got to do a tour of all the facilities. So we got to do a tour of the MRF, the material recycling facility, the EARTH, the energy recovery facility, and the giant composting unit where all the green garden bags go and where you can buy the compost. And it really was fascinating to go and learn about the different parts of the process and the different things that happen with the recycling. But it's just really important to think about where this away is. And if it's the earth, there are small emissions, but actually most of it, the other one I toured was by Heathrow Terminal 5. It's called Colnbrook, Colnbrook, Colnbrook. And it's amazing. If you look out the window left on your way to Heathrow, you'll see this building with a really cool roof. It was actually used for the remake of Day of the Triffids. It looks very futuristic. It's a huge energy recovery facility. It powers 40,000 homes, I think, in Slough. You can monitor the air quality around it any time of day, 24/7. They publish the readings for the air quality from it continually. There is far more pollution from the M25 than there is from the earth. The problem is lots of people don't want them, the whole NIMBY thing, not in my backyard. People don't want it on their doorstep. There is work to convert some of the existing coal-fired stations into earths where you burn the rubbish. I once did a project at the recycling company on the pros and cons of earths, and it was interesting because I started off really anti it. And it's interesting that if you want to believe something, you can find all the evidence on Tinternet that you need. Because when I started, I was reading lots of stuff from Friends of the Earth and Greenpeace, and it was all very against earths. But my project was to produce a balanced opinion. And so my research went a lot deeper. And actually, by the end of the project, I had changed. I was pro-earths. There were only two arguments I couldn't refute. One was, once you've burnt something, it's gone forever. Archaeologists of the future will not be able to learn a lot about us from our rubbish if we are burning everything. And the other was that because the earths are very expensive to build and initially to run, the contracts are very long. They tend to be 25-year contracts. And they like calorific things. They like plastics. They like Tetra Paks, etc. If you don't send anything calorific that burns well to the earth, and you're just sending like wet stuff, like food that doesn't burn terribly well, it's harder for them to keep the higher temperatures. So my argument was it would demotivate councils to put in recycling schemes for things like plastic plant pots at the garden centre and so on, if you kind of want some of those products to be going to the earth in order to be burnt at the high enough temperatures. But on the whole, they really are much, much better than landfill. So it's just thinking about where things go when we throw them away and what we can put in our bins. So as I said, I have various containers. So I brought some of them up with me so I could show you. So I have the one I already showed you for the council. I have a completely separate one for Tetra Paks. Until really, Tetra Paks are this sort of foil and paper juice cartons. So juice, this is almond milk, and various products come in it. The problem is Wade Road, until very, very recently, had a collection point for these. They've just closed it, just in time for Green Week. They've just closed it. They said initially that they had met their target. They actually said, no, they're not going to reopen it, which is a real shame. But Andover and other boroughs do still collect these. In fact, in many parts of the country, they're collected curbside in your green bin or your brown box or whatever you're using. But here, Tetra Paks need to go over the county border to somewhere else. So I'm waiting for my son's next away game against an Andover football team, and then I will take my shed load of Tetra Paks there. So we do need to try and put pressure on the council to reintroduce that. Here, I've got a bag full of lids. Lush in town, Lush in Festival Place, take all types of coloured lids. The only type they can't take, and I deliberately left one in here, if it's mixed sources. So this is a ketchup bottle lid, and quite often drink bottles are the same. If they have a separate type of plastic in the middle that's squishy to squeeze through or drink through, they can't take those ones that are mixed sources. But for example, this one did not have a squeezy thing. The inner bit was still just plastic. So any kind of plastic lid, even black plastic lids, black is fine as well. And that will all be recycled at Lush in Festival Place, next to Ryman Stationers. They have a little box just inside the door, and you can just go and empty your lids into there. I have a separate little container for aluminium foil. So we get milk delivered by the milkman. So I keep all the milk lids, or perhaps things from yogurts and so on. And if I ever have a ready meal, it's not very often, but the little tray is handy to keep them in until I have enough to just crush it and put it into one of the alufoil containers. They have some at Beach Park. They have them in most of the supermarket car parks like Sainsbury's and Morrison's and so on. You will see an alufoil container. Underneath that, I have my milk bottle tops, and I know St Leonard's, amongst many others, will collect the milk bottle tops, and they're able to use that to raise money for their funds. You quite often find places doing it maybe for Air Ambulance or other charities as well, but St Leonard's, very handy for us to take milk bottle tops, and indeed crisps. I didn't bring my crisp packets up. It's looking a bit full at the minute, my crisp packet storage. My sons and my husband all eat a lot of crisps. So, but again, those can go to St Leonard's and other collection points. So all kinds of tricky things can now be recycled as well. And that brings me to some of these plastics. So I have a very large box here filled with the plastics that the councils can't take. So this had little meringue nests in it. I have yogurt pots and so on, and soft plastic like bread bags. So the soft plastic Until very recently, Morrison's were taking an awful lot of soft plastics, including bubble wrap and all kinds of things. So if it's this kind of soft and squishy stuff, there is actually a list on their website, or if you are on Facebook, look up Eco Zero and you'll be able to find our information about recycling soft plastic. But you can recycle this kind of plastic just with the supermarket shopping bags. So for example, just inside the door at Sainsbury's Kempshot, there is a bin just on the left, and you can recycle bread bags and other types of soft plastic packaging. So this type that sometimes, you know, if you buy, I don't know, some kind of new device, often there's some plastic wrapping inside. And all of these hard plastics can go to the bins, the big orange bins in Sainsbury's Kempshot car park. That's the only local place I know taking these rigid plastics. They can't take children's toys and they can't take meat trays. They don't take those black plastic trays or any type of meat tray, but very good for all types of other hard plastic. So what you can't necessarily put in your green bin, you may well find there is another source. And as I know I've mentioned Eco Zero a couple of times, but we did these really nice leaflets, which we're now trying to put in people's welcome packs as well. They are available digitally, but it's a really nice leaflet about what you can recycle where. And it tells you about all kinds of things like mobile phones, postage stamps, bras. You know, there are all kinds of things that charities collect and can take. School shoes can go to a wonderful project called Sal's Shoes, where they're sent out to Africa, and a child who maybe has never had school shoes before could be wearing your child's school shoes when they've grown out of them. So even if you can't put it in your ordinary black or green bin at home, there may well be a route for it. My next one is blame. Let's stop blaming, particularly with blame, and we blame the councils. Why don't the councils take this, and why can't I recycle that, and why do they? And it's like, what do you want them to do? Councils have been under extreme austerity measures. They've had so many cuts, and it's really hard for them with their budget to do everything that we would like them to be able to do. So what do we want? Do we want better recycling but no street lights? Better recycling but no policemen? Or not able to mend the potholes this winter, and so on and so forth? It's really quite tough for them to allocate the spending across all the things we would like. And the other thing, of course, as I said, is sometimes there is a national issue. So it is DEFRA that has put the hold on building the new recycling facility that would be able to accept more different waste streams, for example, perhaps like the Tetra Paks, because they're really doing a massive study on what is the next step for reducing our mountains of waste. So I think we need to stop. I'm going to bring my B and my C back together. Stop just blaming the councils and stop just blaming everybody else. We blame the supermarkets a lot. Oh, look at all the packaging on this Easter egg, or look at all the packaging on these apples. We're the ones buying it. You know, we need to stop externalizing all of the blame. Stop blaming the councils, stop blaming the supermarkets, stop blaming the manufacturers, and take a bit of responsibility ourselves. We're buying the products. If we feel strongly about some of these things, we could write to the manufacturer. You know, if you buy your child, I mean, I'm saying Easter egg, and maybe advent calendar is more appropriate for this time of year, but if you're buying something and you really are a bit grumpy about the amount of packaging, there'd be an email address on the side of the packet. You can phone their customer care line. You could register your displeasure at how much packaging there was on something, rather than just blaming other people. So taking a bit of responsibility ourselves. And the final one from this first little ABC is my big passion, closing the loop. Going back to that first idea of away. When we're throwing these things away and when we're putting them in our recycling bins, we feel quite noble and virtuous. We feel like we did the right thing there. We're recycling. I put all of my paper and card and all of my plastic bottles. I'm doing recycling, so I'm being good. Brilliant. Are you then looking for products with recycled content? Because if not, you're still just throwing it away. You're still just letting it be somebody else's responsibility to deal with it. So if you're not then looking for items with recycled content, what happens to all that recycling we're doing? There has to be an end product and there has to be an end market. So I get really, really wound up about this. Not wound up, but it's sort of fired up in a good way, maybe rather than wound up in a bad way. But I look for things with recycled content. I needed some box files for my study. I bought these really lovely ones off Etsy. And they're made from 100% recycled cardboard and then covered with like a hand printed paper. And I just thought they were so pretty to put my stuff in my study. But yet they were made from recycled card. Even my washing up bowl is 100% recycled plastic. It's made by Addis. They make lots of washing baskets and so on as well. You can get recycled aluminium foil, Baco foil, and another, there are two companies that do 100% recycled aluminium foil. My favorite piece of recycling is our log burner in the garden. Our log burner used to be a washing machine drum. We got the idea from our next door neighbours. They did it first. We've since made 3 or 4 of these and given if you prise apart the washing machine and get the drum out, there's just 3 bits of plastic on the sides that you can pull off, and then what you have is something with a base and with lots of holes around the outside, and so all of the smoke goes up but the heat comes out. And I love the fact that it's had a whole life as a washing machine and now it's got a whole second life as our fire pit. So if you're at the tip and you see a washing machine, that's what I would do with it. Very, very easy. So I've got 3 things here to show you that are all made from recycled materials. The first is my clipboard. I've had this for many years. I'm really sad this company doesn't seem to have survived COVID. They were called Revolve, so R-Evolve. I will look for them again, but they don't seem to be online at the moment. If I show you sort of quite clearly to the camera, and if you look on the back, somewhere it does say Sony. This was a computer motherboard for a computer that was made obsolete by a newer model coming out, and all of the motherboards that were currently in production were then scrapped because they were adding some new little bit. And this company made them into all kinds of cool stationery things and Christmas decorations. So you could see that the colour would work quite well for Christmas decorations. So I love my clipboard. The second thing is my handbag, which is a great talking point, and lots of people comment. So from a distance, it just looks very bling. It's nice and shiny and so on. When I hold it up close, you might get a better view of what it's made of. And if I turn it round, this is the company. They're called Bottle Top. And the entire bag, well, not the inside, but the entire bag is made from the lids, the ring pulls of fizzy drink cans. In fact, the shop is called Bottle Top. It's on Regent Street. The entire shop was recycled. Everything in it was recycled, and the shop itself was made from recycled plastic printed on a 3D printer, and the ceiling was Coca-Cola cans with the logo blasted off, so they were just aluminium in a beautiful wave, and everything in the shop was recycled. So my lovely handbag, I actually got a little silver clutch bag as well, but it's a really good talking point. Sometimes it's nice to talk to people about recycling without preaching, and I find the bag is really good for that because it allows people to they go, oh my goodness, is that me? And then we can get into a conversation about recycling. So, and then last one, this is a really hard one to guess. I often show this to people and they are usually stumped. I occasionally get guesses like inner tubes and so on. So this is my purse. I got it last Christmas. And I do tell people that the red colour is a clue. That doesn't usually help them. But my lovely purse used to be a fire hose. It has done 25 years of service in the London Fire Brigade. And then when it's decommissioned, normally it would have to be landfill because it is mixed materials, the rubber and the lining and so on. It's actually lined with old parachute silk as well. And when you buy it, you get a little card that comes with it about how they've made it. And the profits go to the firefighters charity. So this is a company called Elvis and Cress, and they make belts and laptop covers and purses and wallets and, you know, all kinds of things like that from old fire hoses. So again, just another really clever piece of recycling, this kind of upcycling. And obviously there are lots of things that you can do in that way for for recycling is to look, you know, we have there's another Facebook group at the minute called Free for Oakley Hants, where you can put things, particularly things the charity shops can't take. So if you have something that's electrical and you can't give it to the charity shop, you can just give it away for free to somebody. They always say one person's rubbish is another person's treasure. The charity shops, of course, to be able to give good quality things to the charity shops so that somebody else gets the enjoyment from it and they get a bit of money to use for the projects that they are supporting. So when we're talking about throwing things away, I had a couple of little quotations to share with you. The first is a lady called Annie Leonard. She's the head of Greenpeace in America. She wrote a great book called The Story of Stuff. And she said, "There is no such thing as a way. When we throw anything away, it must go somewhere." So I think that's really important to remember, bringing the three bits of the A, B, C together. And obviously we can all try to reduce our waste. I mean, we're a family of four and we manage on a skinny black bin. We just have a skinny black bin and a big green bin. I try to divert as much stuff as I can away from the black bin. We have a composter. You can get composters very often either free or heavily discounted from the council. And you just put all of your kitchen scraps, your garden waste and so on. You can even put some of the grass trimmings and so on in and make your own compost. And it's really good quality when it comes out. So all of our fruit bits, all of our vegetable peelings, tea bags, you know, all of these different things that you can compost in your own garden and stop them going into your black bin. And my other quotation was from a zero waste chef called Anne-Marie Bonneau. And I think it's a really, really good one. We don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. It's about us all doing our bit, not blaming the councils, not blaming other people, just taking some responsibility for what we ourselves use and consume and trying to make less of that end up going to the landfill, going into the black bin. And so I think that's, you know, probably the main part of that first A, B, and C. So I think I'm going to stop there because it would be rather good to have a little break, and maybe we will do a little separate session on coming back from C to B to A. So thank you very much for listening, everybody.